Morning. How
Hello.
how is everyone this fine Sunday morning?
I accidentally took a second Cymbalta this morning instead of my leave with the rock scene, so we're gonna see how today pans out.
That could be an interesting day.
I'll
Oh
be
no.
fine. I'll be fine. It's just it's one of those things. Wait. Wait. I know yesterday was Star Wars Day, but like you know what? We're gonna rock the
I think for
stormtroopers
most of us,
today.
every day is technically Star Wars Day,
That's valid.
That's super valid.
or at least there's at least some facsimile of Star Wars going on. Oh, that's so cool.
We good. It's been hectic lately with work and everything, but we're vertical. We're vertical. Super
Spike!
Spike!
Richard, how be you?
I am good. I got my coffee. I got the window open with a nice cool breeze coming through.
Oh, that
Hmm.
breeze.
It's
It's
lovely.
it's a lovely Sunday morning.
It is. It's really nice.
Matthew, hi
Yes.
friend.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see you yesterday, but guess what I've got for you?
Oh,
It's a bag full of bodies.
always more bodies.
Always more bodies.
To the FBI agent listening in Minecraft.
Eh,
Uh,
eh, whatever.
how are you, Matthew?
Matt's like, it's fine.
Uh,
I'm pretty good. Pretty good.
how was your
Slow
Saturday
start to my day, but
since the walk didn't happen? How was your Saturday?
well, went out to Wisconsin.
Oh, did you go to the wedding?
Yes. So
How was it? I felt bad I couldn't go, but also I was like, I definitively know some of these people never got vaccinated, so
yeah. I mean it was outdoors ish, but I don't blame you for playing it safe. Yeah, it was good. It was good.
I'm very excited for them.
Definitely. It wasn't like it's like, oh yeah, I know most of these people, but I don't know them. So
Yeah,
just kind of hung out with Danny and James and Sarah and
Warrior.
Warrior and whatnot. But it was nice to say hi to some of the other people that I hadn't seen in a while.
Yeah, James was like yesterday when we hung out before I took him to get his rental car. He was like, I sincerely wonder how many of these people will be wrestle people and how many will not, and
I
how
want to
many
see.
of these he felt like he had to invite.
Well, yeah, I am curious about how many he felt like he had to invite, but I'd say it was not. It was less than half wrestle people, but it was close to half.
No, that's fair. Well, again, I know. I mean, I think the chances he's ever seeing this is probably less than two. But congratulations, Scene, um, Tyler. Proud of you. Glad that you and Kayla found one another, tied that knot, and I wish you all the success in the world, my friend. Um, all right. So now that we got that out of the way,
I mean, well, so just
oh
because we have Star Wars people here, I did think it was an interesting choice on their behalf to use Duel of the Fates as their like
yeah,
entrance.
they're
Uh,
both huge Star Wars nerds, and I
so
love
I
it.
know they are, but it's like there's a lot of other Star Wars songs that maybe would have been less uh,
I
intense.
I kind of like it.
Oh, I would go with Duel of the Fates.
Yeah, it's a really pretty
Absolutely.
song. That's a very pretty song. I mean, I am good for them. Today
Yeah.
is my brother's anniversary because, as my Hispanic cousins tell my brother all the time, he is the most Hispanic of all of their white relatives. He got married to his wife on Cinco de Mayo. Um, it's like one time my friend Rick in college, African American man from Philadelphia and a nationally ranked collegiate wrestler, told my roommate, who I grew up with, um, my roommate, so why does Ben get to sit at the table with all the black guys? And Rick said, because Ben is Scottish Irish. He's like the black of Europe. And my roommate was like, I don't understand that reference. And he's like, because you're not fucking smart enough. Piss off.
Well,
So,
feliz aniversario to them.
yeah. A dude who I had to significantly earn their friendship, like hard, because I was friends with their roommate, who I actually helped graduate from Ohio State. One of my proudest moments was helping them, who was kind of like for about 10 years, like another brother. Like my dad took him to all of his college visits when he was going to sign with a Division I school. Which I think I've told the story before when they went to Alabama, right when Nick Saban got there. Nick Saban had recruited him, and my dad, he went on this college visit. My dad said, "Dre, why would you want to go to a school where the black people here are basically just here to play football? Like, do you not see this as like Ala fucking Bama? Do you really want to live here for the next 3 years? I mean, have you? Do I need to teach you about the history of Alabama and civil rights? You're from Ohio, my friend. You should probably stay up north where there's at least somewhat not as scary as shit that goes on. Because this is like 95. So Dre went to Michigan State, was an All-American there, and then got drafted in a supplemental draft, but ended up not going to the NFL. So good for him. Hope
I
he's
work
doing
with a
well.
Michigan State alum, actually. One of my teammates is a Michigan State alum. He hates me because I'm a University of Michigan fan because I used to work in Ann Arbor. So I have deep love for the city of Ann Arbor because, like, honestly, I think they have some of the best and most underrated music venues in the entire state. It's a cool town. Also, they have a tradition of fairy doors everywhere, and it makes me so happy. Yeah, it's a thing in Ann Arbor. Like all of the businesses, all of the theaters, everything, they all have fairy doors and fairy portals in their places. And like
I've been to
you
Ann
leave
Arbor.
little, yeah, it's so
I've been to Ann
great.
Arbor multiple times. I wanted to go to the University of Michigan.
It's a
My
great
one of my
school.
best friends in high school growing up lived a couple blocks away. His dad was an All-American gymnast at Michigan, and he was on like their
Wow.
gymnastics T-shirts doing like the Iron Cross. He was
Oh,
also an Olympic alternate. Um, and I desperately, I mean, we grew up like lifting weights in their house and all this trophies and shit of Joe's on the wall from U of M. And whenever Michigan played on Saturdays, it was like a big deal to go to their house and watch the game. And like I said, they only live like a block away. So it was like a big deal. So when I was a kid, I was like, I fucking loved Michigan. Plus, I was from Kansas, and Kansas football was fucking bullshit. When you're recruiting me, start recruiting me when I'm in 8th grade, I mean, let's be honest.
there go
Anyway,
there go my text messages for today. Also, like shout out, it's gonna be a little bit weird, but I am gonna call this out. In addition to it being Cinco de Mayo for all of our viewers, today is Red Dress Day. So if you have an opportunity to wear red in support of missing and murdered Indigenous peoples, I encourage you to do
wow, I was
so.
not aware of that. I will have to
Yeah,
find
May 5th,
some
every
windows.
single year is what they call Red Dress Day. So people wear red in support of
Do they
calling
have
out both the
anywhere there?
American and Canadian government and other places, but particularly those, to support
Dude,
No More Silence and to find and uncover the truth and to ensure that we have no more missing and murdered Indigenous peoples. So,
I
shout
was
out Red Dress Day. Look it
hell
up,
yeah.
Google it,
Yeah.
do some education. It's good
I
stuff.
was not aware of that ever, which is crazy.
Mhm.
Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate
Of
it.
course, of course. Sorry, I'm friends with numerous folks that are Dakota. So we have like my text messages always like blow up on on this day for good reason. So yeah, so I encourage everybody to like check it out, do a little Google, learn a little bit of something.
All right. Well, now that we've got like all the actual important stuff out of the way, so Shannon and Richard are here because like we've got DNO tomorrow, and we kind of left last time with especially Shannon, your character, um, Cherry is like a weird spot to be in, and so I wanted to see like what do you want to do? Because it
Well,
will drastically, and that in turn affects Richard.
it does, but it does not because like here's the thing with Charity because like the more I thought about this, the more I don't think she would leave. I'm pulling up my roll.
I don't think she would leave either,
character
and that's
sheet.
why I thought like Richard. I thought your character is basically like they're ultra tight, so I was like, well, then why would why would Schnick leave? Why would he go back? Why would he go to a place he's never really even been without Charity? Um,
Well, Snicked has a bit of a
They're not really friends. I mean, that's the
yeah.
thing. They're not friends.
They're close, but they're not really friends. Snicked is almost more of a guardian over Charity, much to Charity's chagrin.
Charity don't
I'm a,
like authority.
I'm a helper, an unwanted helper. Well, also, it's like I just try, yeah. So I'm trying to wrap my head around like what would happen with those characters, and if it would behoove you just to make new characters. Well, I mean, Shane, you wouldn't have to because you've got Savannah, who you've already been playing. Um, so it's for me, and again, I reason I was like, hey, I want you guys to decide. But I'm just from my perspective, it's all a matter of like we kind of put all the pieces back in place. Like I broke your stuff, and then I was like, I tried to fix it and put it back in the back in the cabinet. It was like, look, all faced out so you can't see all the
Like, what
shit that
I
was broken on the
do?
backside. Um, and it doesn't mean those characters go away. It just means that they're currently off doing their own shit. Um, so yeah, it was just a thought I had and wanted to see where you guys were at with that.
I mean, Snicked will go where Charity goes. Not out of friendship, but out of duty, out of maybe even somewhat being a bad influence.
Schnick is a terrible uncle.
Well, I mean, Snicked is an assassin,
Yeah.
so
So Schnick is a terrible uncle.
Snicked will tend to point folks into a more neutral thought process when it comes to certain things.
That's fair. So Shane, what are you thinking?
I'm going to be very transparent. This is a difficult situation to kind of put me in because I feel like there's so much like hanging on what I do. Um when it
I
comes to
I
like
mean,
Richard because like
but I think that's and I think that's like. I mean, I don't disagree. I don't know how to put that. Sure. Yeah, I interrupted you for
it's
absolutely no reason. That was sorry.
it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. You have strong feelings about it's a long running game and there's a lot of strong feelings about it. And when a game runs this long, I think it's hard for people to not be like super invested in like what's gone down. I love Savannah as a character. I don't honestly see me playing her on a regular full-time basis as it is. She's super fun. I think I'd like to relegate Savannah to NPC territory.
Okay.
Um she's really fun. I love the concept of her. Like she's someone in like a different setting. I might consider breaking someone and making a nimble right character in the future because she's really fun to play. Like she makes me think in a different way. But it's kind of boring to just be Baymax every week. uh,
Yeah, I mean,
she's fun,
yeah,
she's really cool, but like I don't see a lot of like deep development with her. There's not I don't see. I mean, there could be potential, but it's like it's not a potential that interests me enough to like pursue it, I guess
that's I
is the
think
way I look at it.
see, like from the outside in, I'm like, oh, there's so much there, but I think the thing is, it's like if you don't see it, then it's not there. Then it's just
Well, and it's also like I will be fully transparent. Where I was in my personal life from when I started playing with the crew and where I am now. My Richard can vouch for me on this one. My day job, and I will not get into it. It is Richard made a joke the other day that I spend a lot of time doing therapy for other people. And then I was like, "Yeah, you're not wrong." And then he's like, "No, I really wasn't joking. You actually spend your whole day doing therapy for other people." So
yeah.
there's a reason I've like scrubbed my socials, pulled back from a lot of stuff because it's just I'm so mentally weighed down that the concept of playing two characters, it is more than my brain can handle right now. I can't do it. I'm broken and incapable of committing to that level of. I'm having a hard time tracking all of the NPCs and keeping track of everything as it is.
I
Um,
don't ask anybody
it's
to
so much. I rely on Cassandra because I'm like,
because
Cassandra,
I
who the
can't.
fuck was that person? I don't even
Yeah.
know. It's a lot, and
Yeah.
it's a testament because the game's been going for so long, which is awesome. Like that's what happens when you have a game that runs like Storm Song got like that too. We got we got late in that campaign, and it was just like, oh god.
Plus, it's
Absolute
like you
love
guys
lost.
go,
Like
yeah, you go all over the place in the multiverse and like meet people.
it's a
So,
lot, yeah, but
yeah.
it's cool. Charity, I think. Here's what's interesting, because Richard joined. Richard joining does make me consider what I would do with Charity. Because I think if Snicked was not necessarily a part of it, Charity would probably ride into the sunset and be done. Um, Mostly because like she's got Leona, she got what she wanted. But I think that the way that things played out, it's different. Charity has a different sense of justice now than she did when she first came in. Um, I think that's the difference. There is a sense of justice. Her moral compass has shifted a bit. Um, with Snicked there, Snicked is like he's like a really shitty Jiminy Cricket.
That is a
That
really good way of putting it.
that seems like that seems like a theme for this entire game. Really shitty Jimmy Cricket.
Really shitty. Yeah, well, she literally had a shitty Jiminy Cricket for a
Yeah,
while.
exactly.
Fucking Magnar. Um, so it's interesting. I think like if Richard wasn't playing, I probably would have been like, we're gonna sunset her and be done. But because Richard's here and he chose to play Snicked, I number one, I would never tell my spouse like, hey, you joined this thing, peace. Uh,
Well, that's the thing I would
it'd
ask.
be real
I mean,
shitty.
I would ask you, Richard. Do you have an idea for a different character? I mean, is there anything that
He really
interests you
wants to
besides?
play Snicked. That's the
Is
thing.
that the thing? You're like, but I really want to do this.
Yeah,
I love Snicked as a character.
he is fun. He is a lot of fun.
I mean, Snicked is probably the first character I have played outside of my comfort zone in D&D because 99% of the time I always play a cleric.
Ah,
Richard's got
the
either
James
big.
Wheeler syndrome.
Richard played some, even when he plays really messed up clerics. Yeah, we don't want to talk about your priestess of Levator. That was an experience that scarred me for life as a
I am
player. And
so
we had
desperate.
not been dating that long either when
Yeah.
that happened.
I have two ideas I so desperately want to play. One is a monk warlock, and the other is a character I played a facsimile of in Lone Wolf. Not the books, but the actual like fourth edition version of it. Or maybe it was 3.5 edition of it. I played a dwarf who had no name, so it was basically like the Western gunslinger version, dwarf version of Clint Eastwood, except for not Clint Eastwood because he's a piece of shit. Was just more like the dwarf drifter than anything else. And I've always kind of like I kind of want to go back to that really badly. So yeah, I mean I get it. I can definitely see that. I think, but you can also separate those two characters. You know, if you want to look at it from the perspective of maybe Schnicht and Charity's arrangement changes, pray I don't or change it further. Um, by saying like I need you to watch over my siblings because I'm not there then to do that.
I was just thinking that. So I just messaged Richard. I just had an idea. There is, and I think this could be fun because this is a character I've wanted to flesh out for a very long time and have not had an opportunity to do so. Charity has a sense of justice, and I don't think that she would turn her back on her siblings. Like the understanding would be, I am here if you need me. I know how to find you. I will get there. Um, She knows she has the ability. She knows she can get where she needs to go. What if we relegate Charity to like NPC dangle her when you need to territory? What if Charity tells Snicked, you know who hasn't had the opportunity to explore her life? Leona.
Oh,
Leona's
shit.
had no opportunity to explore.
Damn, that's really interesting. I like that idea a lot.
She loves Leona. Leona's like more than just like a love interest to her. It's her best friend. It's her. Leona is like Charity's reason for living. Like if Charity wasn't like borderline kind of ace and incapable of like figuring out that part of her life because she's just not there yet, she would absolutely like romantically be involved with Leona.
So my only other option, because I actually think that's better what I was going to propose, is my other thought is a piece of Anon. Because then you get to do total blank slate of a Mimoloch to do a changeling Mimoloch to do whatever you want with a character I think you already had a connection with.
And I do like Anon as a character.
And I think Anon and Schnick actually make a very devious pair. I'm actually kind of like, I'm not sure that might be the best idea, but you have a part of someone who used to run an entire, school for spies and assassins and everything else, who is basically a shape changer, genderless, basically ageless, who has their fingers in many pies. But I also like the idea that Anon is quite broken after all this. So
And
rather
that's
than
the
deal with
thing.
that, they've just cut themselves into pieces. This is their last resort. Cut my jeans into pieces. These are my denim shorts.
No breathe. Yeah.
So I like the idea of. So I was going to do this anyway, where Anon basically severs off parts of them into being separate entities entirely. So then, like, these characters would have knowledge but no baggage. Being able to say, "Well, that wasn't me. That was us."
I
And
can't.
I'm no longer us. I'm
I have a very different perspective on trauma, and I don't know that I would be able to take that approach.
That's fair. I mean, that's fair.
If I'm completely honest.
No, but I think that's good, because it's a good conversation to have when it's like, this might work for you because of your perspective. This probably will not work for me because of my perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's
that's kind of where I'm at. Also, like, I'm not gonna lie, like, as much as Charity had a relationship with him, she's real mad at him, regardless of, like, she cannot let it go. She's not letting it go. She's like, nope, screw you. Screw you.
that's one
She holds
thing,
grudges like whoa too. Like, that's her thing. Like,
and that's one thing where they will not be leaving Storm Song. My thought was, if that was going to be, it was like, well, I've got to fix this. So I'm going to stick around and try to repair this.
Charity, I think, yeah, when it comes to Storm Song itself, like, she will be invested in finding like a happy medium of integrating what she initially wanted while giving Leona freedom. And that doesn't mean Leona's going to have permanent freedom. She may have to come back someday to like finish this job. But for the time being, yeah.
That was one reason where I was like, well, I could see this also be the ending of Charette's story, because Charette could just run the Stone Grid.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're just a ghost stone. They're just basically a somewhat of a phantasmal Warforged. And I was like, well, it makes sense, because then both Leona and Charity kind of get freedom from a burden that was not their choice. And Shretz would just be kind of like, oh, I get to do this thing that helps a lot of people, and that's really all I wanted to do with my afterlife.
That could be cool, actually. I like that idea. I think, yeah, the more I think about it, the more I think bringing Leona in would be the right call.
Perfect.
Yeah,
So Schnicht and
let's go
Leona
that
is that what we're thinking?
Yeah.
Okay.
Richard, what are your thoughts?
No, I like that actually because Snikt has a little bit of history with Leona as well. So
Yes.
And to me, it leaves
He's a very
charity.
good bird.
To me, it also leaves charity in the slightly in the Conan slash end of Riddick 2 role of sitting on the throne that they do not really want. Of just going, oh god damn it. Now, what's the line from the second Riddick movie where it's like, keep what you kill or something like that?
I wiped the second Riddick movie from my
I
brain.
don't hate that movie. I don't hate it.
I don't hate it, but
I'm
it's
just
just
like,
the first one's so fun. The first one's so fun, and the second one was just it didn't like live up to the first one.
it
And I'm
wasn't
not
about
saying the first one's a good movie either,
no,
y'all.
first
Like
one's
it's
solid.
terrible.
I enjoy that first movie.
I like it.
There's enough horror in it that it really like scratches a bunch of itches I have. I like the unpredictability of who lives and who dies.
Who
Um,
tells your story?
yeah, I mean that's also a thing. Like what really, and also Riddick is kind of an unreliable narrator. And since he's telling the story, like what really happened? Did he maybe just crash there and just kill those people and be like, it was monsters? It was monsters the whole time. It wasn't me. I also like that idea. I'd seen that floated out there somewhere of like, y'all know Riddick is like a renowned murderer and liar. So he might have just killed those people and been like, don't go to that planet full of monster. Um, so I don't know. I enjoy that idea as well. But yeah, I always like the idea of the Howard protagonists um who end up becoming king and then are like, this fucking blows. You know, for like Bran McMorrin, it's the idea of like, I'm watching my people be wiped out by the Romans, and part of my people basically like turning to old gods and going underground, and some of them literally going backwards in their lineage and turning into God knows what. And I don't have the military power to destroy the Romans. So I'm literally standing on the edge of extinction. And like if you've ever read one of my favorite Howard stories, which is Worms in the Earth or Worms of the Earth, it is literally Bran McMorrin making a deal with a Lovecraftian entity to kill the Romans at Hadrian's Wall, selling his potential offspring to this thing in order to keep his people. And same with Conan. How many stories of Conan wins a throne and then it's like, boy, I really didn't want to do this. This is not my intent. So I guess I'll somehow get my army into a fight they can't win, and then I'll run away at the end and start again. And then of course King Cole. Cole's like, boy, I won, and I fucking hate it. I fucking hate it. I can't remember the story with the Serpent Men that try to assassinate Cole where he first meets Bruley. But that's kind of the story where the first like third of the story is all about court politics and how much Cole just could not give a fuck and how frustrated he is. And therefore how much he does not realize that all these people in his court are slowly chipping away at his authority and everything else. And all he can think about is like, can I get the army together and go attack another country? Can I just go kill my enemies? I mean, come on. So yeah, I like that idea of like seeing Charity on the throne like Schwarzenegger at the end of Conan the Barbarian with realizing like, oh fuck, ruler sucks balls.
That's pretty much going to be about the gist of it too. She will not enjoy that, but she does feel obligated to like.
Yeah, that's the thing.
She has seen atrocities and she has seen
Matt, you look like the penguin for a
of
second with that
humanity.
thing in your mouth out there like this. Sorry.
So Leona, as far as like, I think this makes a lot of sense, and it'll also be nice because it'll be like a good clean slate character to bring in, who's the same age as like the rest of the crew. She's actually like the same age as Charity and everybody. And Charity's technically a year older than everybody anyway because of magic fuckery.
Magic.
Yeah, magic, because she decided to, piss off liches and 800 other things because Chaos Goblin of a character who I love, but oh my god. That kid is obnoxious. And Leona's like very different energy. So it'll be going from like, whoa, fuck all of y'all to like, I don't think that was the appropriate way of approaching this. That was not diplomatic. I have questions and I have concerns. So it's going to be kind of whiplashy for the crew, which will be actually, I think, really funny to see how like Amulet handles that, because she's going to question Amulet's fucking ethics of stealing every 5 seconds.
And Amulet's like, I can't help it. This is just what I am. It's not stealing. I'm just borrowing long term.
And like with Snikt too, while she does have like a personal, she's had dealings with Snikt as well, both as the perpetual monarch of Stormsong, so to speak, and then also, she's hired him to do some
Contract work.
contract work
So then
only when it's absolutely necessary.
I would ask then, Richard, like what beyond oath would drive, or contract would drive Snick to go to liminal space? Like, is there something we can build in that makes it feel more like, okay, I've got something else, I've got other business I want to take care of there?
Oh, Snick's overdriving goal about everything, being an assassin, everything. His overarching driving goal is to get flight back.
For all Kenku or just for Snick?
For all Kenku.
Okay.
He figures if he can do it for his race.
How would Snick react to other Kenku? Like, because we've run into that there is a murder of Kenku in Liminal who are like a gang.
Oh, he will do his best not to cause problems with other Kenku, but if a push comes to shove, he will take care of business.
Okay, cool. That makes a lot of sense to me. Okay, no, I like this idea of like so would you say that Snick maybe isn't going to Liminal because of Leona, and more going like, I've heard all this bullshit that Charity has said, that they have been all these places, met all these things. Surely one of them can give me what I want.
Originally, yeah, that was one of the deals he made with Charity's teacher was
Super Spike bringing them classics.
He was going to watch over Charity in return for possible secrets to help them regain flight. Now, the teacher was lying through his teeth, but that's beside the point.
Is this the teacher that went to liminal space?
Yeah, it's the one that like we actually killed off in Down Outlands. He had a slightly different role in like the other guy. Yeah, Professor McDickface.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, he's a lot of fun, but he was not a good guy. He wound up being. It was unfortunate. Like he wound in our original game, he wound up being. He had deals with Delwyn, but it was mostly for the sake of trying to save someone that he had feelings for, that he didn't want to acknowledge that he had feelings for. So it was a very like, yeah, he was a shithead, but it was a shithead of like, you could understand why.
In our game, in our DNO game, he was not that. He just was more of a foil to Charity, but like also like you're too stubborn to fucking learn if you just shut the fuck up and listen.
Yes.
Like the potential's there, but you need to stop.
See,
that is Charity's whole theme. Like the potential is there, but you need to stop.
I see it this way as a good tie for Snick to be a part of this. If Shan's gonna play Leona now, Charity is smart enough and has learned enough to know with Snick that all she has to do is write a contract for Snick to follow Leona, and Snick will follow it.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Because
So,
Charity will only give a shit about like keeping Leona alive.
so,
She'll be like, you follow her, you keep her alive, you bring her back home to me.
so is there a particular reason that Snick is so contract driven?
Just the way he was raised in the Assassin's Guild.
Okay,
Everything
because
requires a contract. You don't kill for free.
we've dealt with contract devils before, um, and I mean, and you can take it or leave it. Just something to think about. That maybe Snick's guild has somehow like is either formed on the same basis as like contract devils, or we're like they have to do their thing. Like I don't think this was in DNO, but I know it happened in Down Outland or in Chaos Guard. They ran into a contract devil had contracted these for a third party to kill these certain characters, and the PCs ran into them and they're like, "Well, the killers they've only got like 10 minutes to complete their contract. If they don't, then you can kill them. I don't give a shit." But I also can't tell you who hired them because I have a non-disclosure agreement. But it does nothing for me to fight you. So I'm not going to fight you. If you attack me, I'll just leave. But I'm not going to fight you because there's no money in it. I gain nothing from this. So I'm telling you like the timeline, because once the clock ticks here, hey, all bets are off. Like I might kill them because they failed. And if you want to, we can draw up a short-term contract to make sure, just kind of, I've always liked the idea of contract devils being like shitty bankers. So bankers.
I'm like, yeah, they're just bankers.
Where it's just like, they, and I kind of, I've been thinking about this for a while too, about like Assassin's Guilds being in somewhat built upon like very, very trustworthy Assassin's Guilds being built on the same thing. While the language might be a little tricky, once it's signed, it's signed. Like this is what we do. We don't break it because that's not what lawful people do. And while we might be evil, we're lawful evil. We have rules here.
So I kind of envision the guild that Snicked is a part of very much like in the style of, if you've seen John Wick.
Yeah.
Think like the Continental. There are rules. They follow these rules.
It's
could I interest you then in a sort of hidden thing?
Mm-hmm.
So before you leave Storm Song, maybe Charity has a conversation with Tawny, and there is a contract devil present. And there is an agreement on the table then between you, Charity, Tawny, where there is an agreement, but it's not just for Leona. It's for all of his kids. So this would then include Nate's character, Cassandra's character, because those are the only other two original OGs left now in that group. Everybody else is gone or dead.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of child death in this thing. I just realized.
Yeah.
Although no one really stays dead, it's a very comic book-esque thing going on. Fucking Ryan's character, Akko, went to heaven and then escaped heaven to go be a detective in Sigil. So, yeah, I mean, would that be something that?
Oh, I have no problem working it in where Snicked is also contracted to protect the other characters as well.
I would say like this is something that only Charity and Snicked would know about then.
And Charity would want him to protect everybody because she cares about her siblings. She wants to make sure that they're safe.
Yeah.
And she also, I think to some degree, fancies herself way more powerful than a good chunk of people that she knows. Like I think she overestimates her competence, like most people do. So I think she feels like she could stay there and accomplish more, but like she wants to protect her siblings. She wants to make sure that they're safe and to give Leona the freedom that she's never had. And let her learn, let her explore. And I think she would probably like have a conversation with Amulet too before she does,
What
and
I
be
would
like,
ask with
yeah,
that is maybe like either prepare something, write something,
hmm
whatever, and do that first thing on tomorrow.
yes,
Um,
yeah,
I think that sounds cool, like this whole idea of like a letter or whatever. And I think it's cooler if it's a letter because then Amulet doesn't get to directly respond. It's kind of like, I know if you were here, you'd probably argue with me. So I've cut off your opportunity to argue with me.
hmm
Yeah, I
Oh,
yeah,
you don't even have to do a letter. Remember, Snicked is a mimic.
Oh shit, that's right.
Snick
yeah,
That's
can just do
really
it in
cool.
Charity's voice.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
hmm
Yes, please do
Here,
that.
I sent you my walking, talking MP3 player.
That is that is super cool. I love that idea. Where okay, well, where does Savannah go? I don't like the idea of keeping Savannah like uh in liminal space then instead moving Savannah on their
I
own road.
see now. Here's the thing. Well, I might. I don't want to overcommit. I like playing Savannah. If I'm playing Leona, I have like a clean slate to keep track of stuff, which makes things easier
Yeah.
for me.
So what I'm thinking, and correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
maybe Savannah goes to Avernus and spends time with Dad, and just disappears for a while, goes in
Yeah,
the
I think
background.
she probably would, because that would make her very happy and very content, as long as she has a way to continue to communicate with people. Like if she can send letters.
Yeah,
She's like, "Hey, I went to like I'm going to my family's house for the summer. I'll send you letters." Um,
I'm going to hell to live with my dead dad. Um,
yeah, 'cause she wants to be able to like, send notes to her on again, off again. "Hey, you're cute. I stabbed you.
yeah,
Sorry about your flesh wound." Uh,
I like that idea a lot, actually.
mhm.
So that
And
in
then we could
turn,
bring her in whenever we want
yeah,
to. Yeah.
okay, yeah, I like that a lot. Well, then would Runny stay in liminal, or would Runny then, because Savannah's not there, would one of those siblings, both and their father, would they go back to Storm Song? Do you think, or do you think they would stay in liminal space?
I think I think the family would probably want to go back to Storm Song.
Okay.
I don't know if Ronnie would. I don't know.
I mean,
I
I'm
don't know.
fine either way. I mean, that's why I'm kind of asking you, because that was a character that I think out of everybody, you had the most um interaction with. So
Yeah.
it makes sense for you to kind of make that call.
I
Also,
think
plus,
you're
I mean, no, this is something I fully believe in, is like when players have interactions with NPCs, I feel like those are kind of their characters in some ways. And I
yeah.
like the idea of them having more of a say than me, because if I don't have the investment.
Yeah. I think that's fair. I think they would go back to Storm Song. I
Uh,
think as a family. And I think part of the reason is, especially with Charette being there and having the knowledge that he has, no one knows the Warforged exhibit and the history of those things. Like everybody, the most educated people sometimes some of the most educated people that work in a museum, the caretakers, the custodians, the people that are intimately acquainted with all of those things every single day. What if his dad is like promoted to, you know, given a really cushy spot and is now responsible for like the reconstruction and overseeing the rebuilding of parts of the museum and pulling all that Warforged technology that has just resurfaced
I love that idea.
and making sure that it's cultivated and documented and like put in a safe place where
What
it
about
cannot.
what about the Great I Am? Would they stay or would they go? Because they're also a Storm Song.
Hmm, I don't know. That's a tough one.
Got something to think about. They've been
Yeah,
so far in the background that it hasn't really
they
mattered.
might hang out for a bit. I mean, it might. They might. I mean, I'm sure it's very interesting to be like, oh, that whole continent lost like giant chunks of a city. There's a lot of rebuilding to do here. This whole This whole planet's in a little bit of a mess. We gotta
I'm
kind of
all
like organize things.
I'm slightly also more apt to think they would go because they were very much like a fan of charities. I was like, they
That's
looked
true.
at
That's fair.
they looked at charity as like, okay, you're like this revolutionary-esque person. You're this voice. You're our quit and choir. That Magneto was right type of thing.
So
So
funny that you just said that because literally I had Richard and I had an hour-long conversation about the Magneto was right thing this week.
really,
Yeah, it's well, I'll bring it back to that at the end of the episode
okay.
because I'll tell you about that. It's really funny. I'm unlocking all sorts of weird, like childhood therapy is a powerful tool, everybody, and it unlocks all sorts of really weird stuff. Sometimes deep into your 40s that you forgot about, and it involves Magneto.
He's a
Welcome to my
complicated.
life.
He's a complicated man, and no one understands him except for the magnetic poles of the Earth.
And occasionally his children.
Yes,
And maybe Rogue.
And maybe Rogue. I was going to say
and maybe Rogue.
Depending on your continuity of choice.
Listen, X-Men 97 is fire. It's so good.
It's a very horny cartoon.
It's good though.
It's very good. It is, but it is a very horny cartoon.
It is a very horny cartoon. But to be fair, 90s X-Men was
very
horny.
It
was very
Chris
horny.
Claremont was like, I'm all for horny. Which
it
is
was
fun.
super horny.
Yeah. I have enjoyed it. There's been some interesting stuff. As we talked about, I think Matt, we talked about like maybe it was last week. That it's basically like, hey, do you like greatest hits albums? Good, because we're at a speed run 30.
Yeah, we're just going through them.
Yep.
Listen, they're not doing Onslaught, and that's all I care about. So
you don't know that.
Yeah, we don't know that.
I keep saying Onslaught's gonna show up.
That's true. It could happen.
They had to get Chuck back to Earth.
Yeah. Chuck be tripping.
Chuck be tripping. Oh my god, it's so good though.
And I won't hate if Onslaught shows up, just as long as there's no Heroes Reborn. You know what we haven't seen yet that I'm really intrigued if we'll ever see is the Siege Perilous.
I have one request, please. If this tiny clip, if someone clips this, okay, if this tiny clip could please make its way to the people at Marvel, to the people at Disney, get it in front of Bob Iger if you freaking have to. Okay, I don't care. Can you do me a favor? Can we please stop doing Callisto dirty? Can we please stop? Can we stop shitting on my girl? It's been happening forever. We do Callisto so dirty in every story, and it hurts me inside. Also, how you only gonna give Mero like a 2-second fucking clip in 97? We're gonna have words. We're gonna have words. We're gonna have words.
Speed run. It is the speed run
because I don't care.
I think that they would have. That's one of those stories. I mean, they just kind of went right past Mutant Massacre.
They did. Well, they did it. But that's what I was telling Richard. I'm like, they did it, but they didn't do it. But they did it. But they didn't do it.
But they went right to
looped in Sinister, and I don't want to like spoil shit. Like,
they went right to for extinction. You know,
it's so good.
And to me, so like good. You need that Marauder shit. You need like
Disney probably. God damn it, Spike.
I think Callisto's hard to do as well because Callisto only shows up as a plot device in stories. There's never been like Callisto on a team where we've seen a whole lot of growth.
Wasn't she on some like that weird Excalibur team that came after Extinction? Where
I think so. I think so.
About killing off Magneto, so he immediately brought it back.
Here,
she had fucking tentacles for some reason. I didn't read any of that shit.
I don't think she's ever had. I'll say this: I don't think she's ever had a significant run.
No,
rude.
Because it's a character I would have liked to have seen be on an X team and get some play on an X team. Because I mean, there's all that history with Rogue, or not with Rogue, with Storm. There's all that history with Angel. There's all this interesting things going on. Why not like capitalize on that character that's actually interesting? And you have all the Morlocks. I mean, there was I can't remember the story now, But there was a time in X-Men history where there was a group of Morlocks that basically became the X-Men on Muir Island for a short period of time before they got
Mm-hmm.
butchered. I always liked this idea of there being a group of Morlocks who basically saw the X-Men as like, this is a thing that we need. And you could tie that very much into something like NYX. You have these people underground who are like, well, fuck this. We're going to do something about this, and then we're just going to keep fading in. But because we live in a society that is completely divorced from yours, we have different rules and laws. So you're operating by human law. We could give a fuck about human law. So I don't know why they've never gone with that. It's kind of, fucking Latveria has its own X-Men. Come on.
I mean, I think it's probably because the Morlocks are dead a lot of the time.
That's true.
I mean, yeah.
To me, they're like cockroaches. You can never stamp them completely out. The Morlocks find a way to survive because they're survivors.
They're nature finds a way.
I love that idea, in fact.
Hey, you're worried about Callisto, and I'm worried about why haven't they given us Howard the Duck more?
Jesus Christ.
Howard the Duck
Here
got
we
live
go
action.
again. Here we go again.
Yeah. I want a new live action Howard the Duck in the MCU.
Can I tell you, fun.
Colin was here, he would tell you it's because we need those. If there's not duck titties, I walk.
Can I tell you, Richard is such a Howard the Duck stan that like fun Disney parks thing. If you go to Disney California Adventure as part of Adventures Campus, even though it existed before Adventures Campus was created, they turned Tower of Terror into a Guardians of the Galaxy ride. So it is now Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout. It's an awesome ride. Hot take, I think it's actually better than Tower of Terror. Please don't come for me, Disney adults. I'm so sorry. I'm one of you. Don't eat your own kind, okay? It's gross. In the part of the lobby of it and part of your ride queue is you're going through the collector's collection.
Oh, neat.
So like Cosmo's there, and you can like talk to Cosmo. Fun story Easter egg Figment from Disney World is actually in one of the things from up top, who's from a completely different ride and has nothing to do with the MCU. Just Imagineers being Imagineer bullshit. But Howard the Duck is in one of the cases, and Richard was like, "Where is he? Where is he? Where is he?" That's all he cared about. We were tired. We were exhausted. How dare you, Disney adults? Spike. I could do a whole 3-hour episode on how dare you, Disney adults. Let's not.
It is a great title for a show.
How dare you?
How dare you, Disney adult?
Yeah, but so Howard the Duck is in there in the collection, and that was really, we were tired. We waited like an hour in the queue for that. It's an extraordinarily long line, 9 times out of 10. And it was hot, and it was muggy, and it was it was weirdly muggy for like Anaheim, like more muggy than usual. It was just gross. And
yes,
we were very
Spike,
cranky.
Absolutely 100% true.
Yeah,
I would like to see the baby. That
was Richard's energy the whole time. I would like to see the baby. So if you go there, you can find all sorts of fun Easter eggs in that queue, including Howard the Duck.
Nice.
Ta-da.
I love the 80s Howard the Duck movie. Everybody can just shut up about
that. Did you read the Gerber comics?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God.
I always have mixed feelings on Steve Gerber.
I have mixed feelings about a lot of people in the comics industry.
I mean, beyond Gerber's other bullshit, I think just his writing even, I'm just like, huh.
That was a choice.
Yeah. Huh. As someone who at one point had every issue of the Defenders, I had quite a weird feeling about Elf with a Gun and stuff like that. So, yeah, how come Elf with a Gun hasn't made it into the MCU yet? Cowards. Cowards.
They're not ready for absurdist.
I mean, Marvel, okay, Disney, work with Warner Brothers, give us the crossover event, give us Lobo the Duck.
Wasn't Dr. Bong?
You are unhinged.
Wasn't Dr. Bong a Howard the Duck enemy?
He was his main enemy.
No.
Yeah.
Main enemy.
Okay, I couldn't remember. I mean, fuck you. If Warner Brothers, if you're going to give us anything, give us goddamn Commandy, Last Blood on Earth. I need me some Commandy.
Booster Gold.
Wasn't
Commandy.
there an animated
I will
Commandy
leave
short?
this stream. I
There
will
was an
leave this
animated
stream.
Commandy short, but let's not fool ourselves. It's not.
I can't get behind Booster Gold. I know
Will
everybody loves
Neff for
Booster
Booster
Gold.
Gold.
I
Oh my
like Booster
god.
Gold.
I would, if they ever cast Will Neff as actual Booster Gold, that would be the perfect casting. Perfect. Somebody get behind it. William Nefferson needs to be Booster Gold. I would
I also kind of like Will Arnett as Booster Gold.
Oh my god.
God, that would be good
Like
too.
the Job Bluth version of Will Arnett as Booster Gold.
Jesus Christ.
Because that has big Booster Gold energy. But also I think Booster Gold's a character that has evolved greatly.
Yeah.
It's actually one of the better characters I think that's been handled by DC. That Byrne created him as like a capitalism thing, and then it has slowly become an interesting character who has, relationships.
Was
And
it Byrne or was it Jurgens?
I'm pretty sure Booster Gold was a Byrne Action Comics creation. But it may have been with Jurgens, or Jurgens may have beat him to the punch, but I know he used him quite a bit. Damn, that's a good question.
You have deep knowledge that I cannot even pretend.
Yeah,
Uh,
my
so.
first view of Booster Gold was in 52. So
No, the origin speaks for itself. Failed athlete, and the Legion's timeline gets caught, betting Pete Rosing his own shit. Loses job, becomes security guard, steals a Legion flight ring and equipment to go back to the 20th century to become hero for profit. I mean, it's a super shitbag thing to do. And then eventually just realizes, hey. But the 52 stuff's awesome with Supernova and Rip Hunter. And But I think if you're going to enjoy Booster, it's Booster and Blue Beetle and Justice League International is the pinnacle of two guys, of two superheroes who realize, like, we are C-list, so no one's paying attention to us. Let's go get into some shenanigans. Let's embezzle money from the JLI and buy an island. It happens. Also, they're often paired with fire and ice in a weird, like, slightly will they, won't they, but also, like, ice is super into Guy Gardner, and fire just doesn't want to give Booster or Beetle the time of day. So it's like this weird two dudes, two ladies getting into trouble on a super team that all of them realize they really aren't qualified to be on, which is kind of fun. And it's the whole Kevin McGuire. Gosh, I can't remember the other dude's name all of a sudden.
On the writing, or
on the writing.
It was Giffen and DiMatteis.
Giffen and DiMatteis, yeah. So it's that whole Boahaha era of JLI. The one where Martian Manhunter was obsessed with not Oreos. And where none of the big name characters except for Batman for a period of time were on the team, and where Batman cold cocks Guy Gardner unconscious in one punch, which is also one of my favorite scenes of all time, because all of them keep talking about it like throughout the entire series.
God.
Black Canary telling Wonder Woman about it is one of my favorite fucking things of all time.
Aww.
And they just hit him
Black Canary.
one time and he went to sleep. One time. I highly recommend that run. It's like one of my favorite runs of any comics. I mean, I think they gave a lot of characters a lot of character.
Yes.
Yeah, he was barely capable of being a janitor. But like that run has interesting Martian Manhunter stuff in it. It has it. Captain Atom becomes interesting in all that stuff when it becomes JLA Europe or Justice League Europe. Wally West is super fun in that. Power Girl is super fun in that. Because that was kind of a dead character for a while. That was a dead character for a while. And that actually brought, her back to prominence. Was, the I take no shit Karen Starr. I think that's where we first get that character. Where like, are you looking at my tits? Because if you are, I will literally throw you into the sun.
Well, yeah, but then they like explained that she was angry all the time because of diet soda, which I thought was weird.
Yeah, which there's some weird choices. Don't get me
know
wrong.
why-
Gnort's in that series. Booster Gold's robot. Skeets is in that. Skeets is in that series. We get Elron in that series, which is this weird fucking robot that was with. Was it Despero?
I think so.
Yeah, who like sticks with the JLA. Yeah, they still talk about that single punch. They do Warrior. As well as we get. I'm trying to think who else was in that run. We get a bunch of the Golden Guardians characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great run. It is a significantly wonderful run of comic books. Also, Maxwell Lord. We get our first like Maxwell Lord shit, and our first kind of glimpse into how insidious, Max would end up becoming. I don't know how we got off on that topic, but anyway.
You made the mistake of saying the words Magneto was right, and it all
Explain Magneto. Explain the Magneto thing. If you're fine doing it on screen.
Yeah. So it's really funny. Like part of my recent journey is a lot of therapy, right? Because like your bitch has a lot of trauma from childhood and teenage years. I won't get into that. That's a downer. That's a great big downer. But
no bummers.
No bummers. Warrior, what's up, my man? The single punch. One Punch Man did it better. Fight me. Say Thomas supremacy. I'm coming for you with my anime. So when I keep uncovering all these little things from like when I was growing up that make me go like, number one, how did people not realize I was neurospicy as hell and autistic? And number two, how did people not know I was going to wind up being like in an activism field in some facet in my life? So like we were watching X-Men 97 this past week, and I will not ruin it, but like the series gets real heavy, like real heavy. They swerve the shit out of all of us in the best way possible. And there was a quote where they basically, and I have strong feelings about people who do this, but I know that the writer who predominantly like covered X-Men 97 was a black man, so totally fine with this. They harken back to a Martin Luther King quote, and it just hits so hard and so brutally in the way and the context that it's used that I just instantly started crying. And like it dawned on me in that moment, like the first comic I ever got into was X-Men, was Uncanny X-Men. I was mid 90s, had just come out, lost an entire side of my family because I was queer, I was othered, I lost all my friends. It was brutal. It was the worst time of my life. You know how people are like, but high school's great. No, mine sucked. I would love to never go back. It was really brutal. And it dawned on me that like the whole concept of like Magneto is right made total sense to me. And it never dawned on me that like the reason that I loved X-Men, the reason that I got into comics in the first place is because of all the subtext that seems like so obvious now in hindsight, all of those really important pieces about being othered, about understanding like the anger behind society, understanding the anger behind the mutants, just that like deep philosophical understanding, like it all hit me. And I was like, oh my God, this is why I loved this comic. Like I understood that character. And I feel like there's a reason like people who just watch the movies and stuff don't understand Eric as a character, because in the comics you have years and years and years and years and years to understand his trauma. You have years to understand what made him the way that he is, and it makes sense. And even if you don't endorse the way that he's going about it, you can empathize with his side. Like I've never seen him as a true villain, honestly.
You were talking about this on a walk not too long ago.
Yeah.
Was it you, Matt, who posed that question? Who's the best villain left in Marvel?
I think you asked.
And we couldn't really name one because one thing that Marvel has done a decent job of, I won't say great, but is a lot of the villains have actual reason for being villains. Like I always point to Doom as being a good example.
Mhm.
Doom doesn't see himself as a villain. Magneto is not a villain. He's a revolutionary. Doom is the
Yes.
guy saying like, if you would
Yeah.
just recognize that I can do this better than everyone else, we would not have these problems. There's so many of those characters, like that aren't mustache twirling, like they're not the Joker.
Marvel does a really good job of making empathetic villains
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
people can empathize with. Like, I still think Thanos is a great example of that because he may have gone about it the wrong way, but he wasn't wrong.
Yeah.
I think it also depends on which version of Thanos you're talking about.
Yes.
Because if you're talking the MCU, I can kind of see that. But if you're talking about comics, he's a guy in love with death.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
He's just like,
100%.
this is my roses to my lady love. Is like, I'll
Yeah,
kill half of you.
comic Thanos is a
Comic
sex pest
Thanos.
on
Oh
a
yeah,
cosmic
no, comic
scale.
Thanos very
Yeah.
different. Yeah.
Yeah. But like when you consider like I don't know, I guess it's really interesting to me because like it never really occurred to me that like all of these things that I mean I also unlocked this total memory where like I completely forgot about this until like a few weeks ago. Like and this it ties in, but it's not like comic related. We had a really close family friend growing up who was HIV positive in the 80s. And for those of you that are young and did not live in that time, there was a huge stigma. If you think there's stigma now around like the HIV virus and how it's contracted, et cetera, like it was like the hot topic. It was like
I
nightly
almost
news.
died.
Every night it was a whole
I almost died because of it. Like when I
oh.
when I cut my artery,
Oh, you told me about this.
yeah,
Yeah.
bleeding out.
Yeah.
My mom was an administrator at the hospital. This is like 1993. No, early 1994. They were so concerned about HIV, the AIDS virus, HIV in the blood banks, that she was reticent to allow me to have a transfusion, and I was dying, like literally
Mhm.
dying. So they were
Yeah.
putting in hemoglobin as fast as they could put in. It wasn't even changing color; it was coming out so
Oh
fast.
my gosh.
But it was like I'm old, and I remember that was like a fucking thing. There was
Well,
a
I rem
real panic, and it was a panic then put directly on the shoulders by our shitty fucking government, primarily, who could give a fuck,
Mhm.
um, onto the gay population.
Well, and it's like it sucked because like so
Horrific.
this family friend of ours, like he was HIV positive and he was gay, which also like double stigma in the 80s, like super huge. And we are talking like unapologetically gay, like would educate you on Stonewall in like 1985. That man knew his shit. Dean was awesome. I miss him tremendously. He lost his battle to AIDS in the late 90s. We loved him. He was great. But like through everything, he was like the one person who I mean, you gotta remember in the 80s, I was a kid. I was, like, in elementary school, and,
Oh god, that hurt.
um, ooh,
That
you
hurt so
okay?
bad. That
Oh, no.
made me feel so old.
Oh, I'm so
Oh!
sorry. I thought you were actually having, like, rib shut the fuck up.
No,
Anyway,
I
um,
we're about the same age, so I don't feel so
you're so
bad.
we are. I was gonna say you're close to me. I'm, like, 44. What the fuck? Um But, like, I remember, like, people at school didn't wanna, like, touch me. They wouldn't, like, let me near them. They didn't wanna, because I spent time with this man and they thought, "Oh, well, I'm gonna get AIDS." I was so bitter about it at the age of 10 years old, that when kids we were assigned a book report, most kids went and they were like, I read the Babysitter's Club, I read blah 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 blah. No, I was 10 years old, and out of spite I read Ryan White's autobiography and did a book report on it, where I then built an guys, this is what a nerd I was, because we didn't have computers, we didn't have any of that shit in those days. It just wasn't a thing. I built like one of those like poster board displays, and I made my entire class sit through like a fucking 10-minute symposium on how they were being incredibly hateful, and had to educate them on how HIV was actually contracted, the difference between people who had hemophilia and were queer, and how all of it was incredibly problematic. Like at 10 years old. If I had had access to PowerPoint at that time, they would have been fucked. Okay. Like it was that level of petty. I was that angry. And like it dawned on me, I'm like, how did no one in my life know? How did we not know that I was going to be like this fucking like super leftist socialist like activist. It makes so much sense. It makes so much sense. So it just makes me laugh. So like I unlocked that, and then like 2 weeks later I unlocked the whole like just hearing like Magneto was right. I was like, oh my god, yes, there's a reason I loved X-Men. There's a reason it was so important to me. Like it still is politically resonant. It is still emotionally resonant. It is still to this day, I think one of the smartest series. I mean, it's had some really dumb shit too, but like it's
Oh yeah.
from a political perspective, I think
Yeah.
it tackles things that like other comics have not done in the same way or as well.
I would say too, one thing that I found really interesting. I read an article last week um, about how prescient it can be now with the idea, the Magneto is right thing about being like uh, in conjunction with like Mandela's talk about like we've tried peaceful protest,
Yep.
and so the oppressed have to meet the level of aggression of the oppressor just to be heard. And I feel like that's a really impertinent thing now. Free Palestine. Um, so I think it's important to like recognize that, and it's something that um, can be taken away from that. I think all of us who read, especially read X-Men, I think probably have that, you know, a little bit into our DNA. Which is why I also find it so fucking funny when people are like, X-Men's gone woke. I'm just like, motherfucker,
What the fuck
hey,
are you missing? Like the fact
have
I,
you
I
not read a
remember
goddamn comic book?
I remember what the quote was in the episode that like set me off too. It was a riot is the language of the unheard.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what it was. And it just really hit me because like that is a concept like
I and I think that's actually a
yeah.
quote from some political leader. I want to say it also might be Mandela.
No, it was Martin
No, it
Luther
was it was
King
Was it
MLK.
Jr.
King? Okay.
It was MLK. Which I always feel very icky about being a white individual quoting MLK or John Lewis or any of those because like people cherry pick
Oh
things
yeah.
that were
Yeah.
said. Um like with John Lewis, people the one thing I like to point out is like don't you dare quote good trouble to me because unless you remember that the man said we also have to get into necessary trouble, shut the fuck
Mm-hmm.
up. Mhm.
Well, I
Yeah,
think that's also.
can you tell I work in DEI?
I mean, I think that's just also a thing with it's good to be in those spaces and to be a part of those conversations. It's good to be an ally, but there comes a time where you have to also say, okay, now's the time for me to just
Shut up.
be. Yeah, yeah. It's time for me to be a presence and not a sound. You
Well,
know.
and allyship, the big thing too is allyship is earned, not claimed. So
Yep.
actions are that is part of it, right? So yeah. Unlocking core memories is fun. Therapy's fun.
It's
Therapy and medication is fun. And
medication. Yeah.
nerddom can feed absolutely into that. And like 20 years down the line, you too can unlock all the secrets of your trauma through medication, explicit use of
Why did you
specific
sound?
herbs.
Why didn't you sound for a second like a goddamn infomercial? You
Because like
too.
that's you too. For the low price of severe credit card debt, you too can live a life of a Disney adult with severe mental trauma.
Gosh. Um. Well, we've been at it for a while.
D&D.
I think we got where we wanted to be. So I can do
Yeah.
a little bit of twisting and moving around. Um.
Mhm.
So I'll ask you guys, where can people find you on these beautiful interwebs?
Well, my socials are mostly locked down these days.
Is your project coming to fruition anytime soon? I won't talk about what it is, but there's a project.
Project is coming to fruition and will be launching soon, but I will tell you more offline, which is really
Oh.
exciting.
Haha.
Yeah, so yeah, there are projects. You can find me on socials at the Rainbow Beach, Beech. You can find me in all those places, but most of the time it's locked down, so you might have to request a follow back, and I will happily do so.
You can find me here on Twitch, ONY_Draz. Same with Twitter, ONY_Draz. Same as Blue Sky, My Facebook is going away at the end of
Mine's
this
gone.
coming week. Because I am tired of looking at ads instead of my friends' posts. And you can find me here tomorrow night.
Down Outlands.
And next Monday too, the following Monday.
Oh
I will
yeah.
not be here next month. I will not be here for Scum and
Oh,
Villainy
that's
because I will be
right.
in Denver for work.
So I would ask you guys, do you want to then take the next month, Monday, and then I can let the Jedi folks do this
Yeah.
next Monday? All right, I will let
Yeah,
them
Yeah,
know
that's
that
fine.
works. That's fine.
because that also has been fucking wild. I
Yeah.
think Spike said like, I didn't know cursing could be so much fun in Star Wars, and I was like, I don't know why I'm cursing so much. Yeah, I will let them know. I'm sure that'll be they'll be stoked about it.
Nice.
Hey Matthew,
You can mostly find me here. I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on
Matt,
Instagram.
what are you doing right now? I see a thing in your hand.
Yeah,
I want to
you've
know
been
what thing it is.
working. What are you doing?
I've just been messing with some various things. I
But
had
can
some
you
stuff.
show it? Like, don't do the thing where I only see like spiky wings.
Oh well, this is just some McFarlane bullshit that I'm gonna repaint at some point
Oh,
because my
neat.
eyes are bigger than my stomach.
Mace Windu with
Well,
F bombs and shit. That's just Samuel L. Jackson,
yeah.
Spike. Like that's just literally just Sam Jackson.
Don't feel bad, Matt. I've had these things on my every finger the entire time. I've just been like figuring out like, oh, I need to drill these out, but yeah, I'm just like putting them on. Oh, hi.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, sort of. Um,
I
and
liked
then,
your current thing you posted. The project you finished was really cool.
well, yeah, that was I mean I did that years and years ago, but yes, I was going through and selling stuff off. I got to take new pictures. And then yeah, every other Tuesday, including this coming Tuesday, I am on the Dave Wonder channel doing Chop and Chop. So yeah.
Tomorrow, Down Outlands. I just kind of feel like I need to do something to make this a mascot for Mang on Mang. It's the Unfuckable with Ron Tour. Which I don't know if everyone is aware
Nice.
of that. This is Ron Simmons when he was Farouk Assad for that period of time where
Oh
Vince
my
made him
god.
gladiator. But also there's stories that go around about why Ron didn't have problems in locker rooms because in Ron's own words, oh, I was unfuckable with. And they were like, what? And he's like, yeah, it's the word unfuckable with. I've now heard other people use that to respond about who Ron Simmons is. Oh, Ron Simmons, he's unfuckable with. So that's the unfuckable with Ron.
That's so
Um,
funny.
and I want him to be our mascot. As opposed to for a long time, Mang on Mang, we had actually had Mang. You can find me next week, Thursday. It is FKA Spoopy Boys. We are talking Fallout.
Oh.
Yes, if anyone's interested in coming on and talking about Fallout, reach out. Because I've watched a great deal of lore stuff, haven't played a great deal of Fallout. But I think there's a lot of horror elements to Fallout. And I like the idea of the mix of post-apocalypse, sci-fi, and just straight up horror. That's like horrific shit. And then I think 2 weeks from then, we're going to talk about Savage Land and The Bay, which are two found footage flicks that are very interesting. Savage Land being all the found footage is in photograph form.
Interesting.
It's very interesting. It's about a guy who's arrested because they find him in a town. It's also again sort of plays the fact that here's a man who fled into this Arizona town from Mexico. And when they find him in this town, everybody's dead. And then the photos show that there was something horrifically wrong that happened there. But he won't talk about it, and therefore they prosecute him. And the other one's The Bay, which is an ecological disaster where something happens and the government cuts this town off, and it's bad. I will say this: if you don't like body horror, don't watch The Bay. If you don't know what sea lice are, Don't
Oh.
look it up.
Oh, I do.
Yeah, it's
Gross.
but also both of them very low budget. Very much like they made great movies with no money. So again, proof that you can do that, especially in the found footage realm. So look into them if you're interested. We could talk about those in 2 weeks from this Thursday. Then this Friday is Fang Gang. That's right.
Bang gang.
Fang Gang.
Nice.
We're gonna Dracula super hard. And then next Sunday is right here, and I don't know what we're gonna talk about. Matthew, where are you at on your G.I. Joe game?
Oh, I'm nowhere because I
Matthew.
got other stuff going on. Maybe.
Matthew. I can't even be mad at you. I can't quit you, Matthew. I got stuff like ideas I want to talk about. I've been starting. If you're in the Discord, you'll see that sometimes I drop, just like in the DNO chat, and sometimes in the prep school chat and other places. I'll be like, I have this idea, and I'll put it in there. So always interested in feedback on it, but I've got too much stuff in my brain. That's the problem.
I know
like
that feeling.
Yeah, it never shuts off. It never fucking shuts off. I mean, which is both a boon and a bane. Like I want to do a yearly Halloween game now because I was listening to Mike Shea talk about his 10-year long ongoing. Every year they play I6 Castle Ravenloft. Every year he has a chart that he uses to change who the antagonist is. So it's not Strahd every year. One year it was Irina, and they found Strahd at the beginning of the game, and he was like slowly turning into dust because Irina had become Queen of Ravenloft and she had locked him away. One time it's Madame Eva, and she's like a witch, and she's taking over Castle Ravenloft. And the way he sets it up every year is you're already in the carriage. She's doing your reading in the carriage on your way to Castle Ravenloft.
Oh.
Also, he's only I think he said a 5 or 6 hour game. So he tells the players, like on their first encounter with the adversary basically says, whether it's Strahd or not, I'm coming for you at this time on your watch. So this is the time you have to figure your shit out, because at that point, I'm going to kill you. And I absolutely love that idea of the ticking clock.
That's kind of cool.
And he's now running it with Shadow Dark, which Shadow Dark is a very perfect smush of 2nd edition and 5th edition. So it's a very streamlined 5th edition with a mechanic I love, which is the torch mechanic. You light a torch, you have 1 hour, one real life hour, and then that torch runs out. So, and once it runs out, dark is dark. I have Shadow Dark. If anybody's interested, reach out. I can share it with you. The Kickstarter earned like a couple $1 million because it is a very, very, very well-made game. That I'm thinking about, if I'm going to run that Halloween game, I might run it using Shadow Dark, because it is like, hey, can you play 5e? Well, guess what? Do you want to make it easier? Let's play an easier version of 5e.
I've actually had an idea of wanting to run a weekly game of Tomb of Horrors, where the stream ends once everybody's dead, and then we start over again the next week with new characters, same players, and let them try and figure it out all the way to the end and see how many episodes it goes.
I've kind of wanted to do something similar like that, except for like everybody's a clone of their character.
Yeah.
Which I kind of did for the stream we ran for Chris. So where the characters figured out eventually that they were just clones. I also want to run Pangea, which is just Stone Age D&D, which has got its rules of like no number beyond 9, no written word, no wheels, no metal weapons, and there's a couple things in it like I'm thinking about adopting into other games, like these rules, these additional rules. Like one is like if you're using a non-magic, non-silver weapon, you can take an automatic crit with that weapon, but the weapon breaks. One is you can spend levels of exhaustion to cast a spell you do not have. Which is the idea in playing Gia is like you can actually kill yourself casting spells. And there's another one where like you can use hit points to make your spell difficulty number rise or your to hit rise. So, and it's a world where there's no gods because the gods haven't become gods yet. They're just spirits. So, like druids are hated because the gods see them as thieves.
Ooh.
It's an awesome, interesting 5e thing that some folks, I think it's just one dude actually came up with. Like all the classes are there, but they're tweaked. Basically, one of the design things the person said was like everything that's in 5e is in this game, but you have to be able to justify it. So there's like all the races are available to you if you can explain why they exist at that time period. There's no time travel because this is literally the beginning of the multiverse. You can't go backwards. That's why there's no gods, and that's why there's nothing else. This is the first plane.
I kind of like this idea actually with one of my own ideas. I'll tell you about it offline.
Well, and I have again, this is another book I have. If you want to see, reach out. I can share it. But also the idea that there's no towns, there's no villages. This is like everything. All these tribes are constantly on the move. So your inns, your taverns, your centers of towns are the tribal fires they set every night.
Mm-hmm.
And you can join tribes. I mean, it's an interesting thing. And most of those tribes are literally just meritocracies. You know, they don't give a shit about your race as long as you can push the tribe forward. But I love this idea too. So those rules I talked about, like if there's anything above the number 9, you refer to it as many. So, hey, we're about to be attacked by this tribe. How many are in the tribe? 9. If there's more than 9, it's how many are in the tribe? Many. No wheels. We have to think about like how much can you carry? Because you don't have a cart. Wizards don't use spell books. They tattoo themselves. Those are their spells. Temporary or permanent. Because then they can tattoo runes on themselves. But all the other classes like exist. They've just got tweaks to them. They're dinosaur people, which always makes me happy. Like tieflings are not seen as like touched by the devil, touched by infernal powers or abyssal powers. They're seen as being touched by spirits. And they're called Starfallen in this game. So yeah, it's really a super interesting concept. But getting back to my Halloween game, I want to run it. If anyone's ever seen the 80s horror movie Waxworks.
Oh my God.
I love that fucking movie. I kind of want to run it like that. And every year is a different waxwork that we would like randomly roll for ahead of time. So it would be a different like horror setting.
Okay.
Like it would just be a different, Domains of Dread type setting. But if you haven't seen Waxwork, it's really fun. It's got some gore in it, but it's really fun. Basic premise is they're in a waxwork that if you like stare into the exhibitions too long, you get sucked into them. And they're all their own little worlds. There's a black and white zombie world where I think the guy from Gremlins gets sucked into that. I can't think of his name.
So random.
Yeah, he's in that movie. There's one with like vampires that is really fucking gory and good. So yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. I've got those. I still want to do a speed run, a 24-hour charity speed run for the nonprofit Darren works for, where we play 24 hours. We start at level 1, we end at level 20. So we speed run D&D. And I also desperately want to run a game in the style of Birthright. Which
my God, Birthright.
Second edition setting where all the players start out as heads of different like parts of state, and they vote on who is the king, because the king is dead. Long live the king. It also has a Highlander component, because the whole key to Birthright is the gods had a giant war on the planet and they all died, but their energy spread out to all these characters who were there at the battle. So now if you kill another character with Birthright, you take their power.
You take their power. Gotcha.
Also, like there's no Minotaurs, there is the Minotaur. The Minotaur is a monster. And what they are is they are other characters who received power from this disaster and turned into monsters. And halflings are very important because halflings are the only race that can actively take you in and out of the Shadowfell. They can walk the short walk between areas. So in Birthright, the Shadowfell is like the Nether in Minecraft. You can walk like 10 feet, but in the overworld, you're walking like 10 miles.
Interesting.
But also in the Shadow Dark or Nether or whatever, I can't remember the name for it is in Birthright. It's full of monsters. It is not a good place, and that's why the little folk are so easy to walk through, because they can just be unseen. Like in Plangea, the halflings in Plangea are called the quiet ones, the silent ones, because they've shown that the best way not to be killed is to be quiet and to be very dangerous. So they remind me a little bit of the halflings in Eberron, who ride dinosaurs and are like little assassin boys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, like I said, I got way too many ideas. I put one in there a while back that said I want to do a D&D Space Hulk thing, except for instead of a ship, it's a dead god floating in the astral sea. Because also, man, Space Hulk is badass. It's basically the most nihilistic in a nihilistic, grimdark world. Dropping it on the ship full of monsters just to make sure we cleanse the heretic, the alien. What's the third one? The mutant. So anyway,
I haven't thought about Space Hulk in forever.
It's such a good game. Oh, Games Workshop, just go back to making specialty games.
I'm fine with them doing what they're doing. I would just appreciate it if I didn't have to sell my soul to a demon and mortgage my firstborn child in order to afford one more Land Raider Crusader. That's all I need. I need one more. Games Workshop, could we maybe not make it cost so goddamn much to finish my 2,000 point army?
That's why they're so successful monetarily. It's because they continue to break you all
because
over
they're the devil.
I mean, I don't know if you're paying attention to their Age of Sigmar fiasco now. They basically said like 70% of the armies now are phased out, and they're not selling them anymore. Also, they're getting rid of a bunch of the stuff in Warcry because they're doing an update to Age of Sigmar, supposedly. So, because they brought Old World back.
Okay, Games Workshop. Okay. I don't believe it. It's like every time they say something, it's like an abusive relationship. It's like they're just like, I know they're no good for me, and I know that they're full of shit, and I know that they're just gonna keep like feeding me crappy lines and being like, "But baby, I love you. Look at this pretty thing," and I'm like, "Oh, but you're so bad for me."
They're like, "Oh, girl, but look at this plastic.
Look at this. Look at this. Look at this squad. You don't even,
Girl,
you haven't touched your army in like 12 years.
Girl,
Look at this.
World.
Look at how pretty.
The
Ooh, jingle,
World.
jingle.
Yeah.
Jingle, jingle. Keys. Jingle, jingle. Pay attention, idiot. Jingle, jingle. Like, yeah, that's.
Have I showed you my Forge World yet? That is their shit. It really is. That's why I only play games that tell you at the beginning we're miniature agnostic. I'm looking at you, Joseph McCullough, you beautiful, beautiful bastard.
Oh, I love it.
All right. Yeah, I think that was everything. I just totally Minnesota goodbye us for 30 minutes. So
yeah.
Yep. That's all right. It do be like that sometimes.
I'm like that all the time, and I'm ashamed. I'm not even from Minnesota.
I'm not either.
I've just mastered the goodbye. All right. Everyone, have a good rest of your Sunday. I hope your Monday is tolerable, and hopefully you'll hang out tomorrow night as we begin what is the second season, I guess, for Down Outlands.
Yeah. And happy
Um,
AAPI Heritage Month,
yes,
everybody.
wear red today.
Mm.
We're red today, and
See, I always wear
celebrate.
red. It's right here. Oh my god, it really stood up. Kasana gets real mad that she's like, your hair is so fluffy. I'm like, whatever. now I have these white hairs in my goatee.
They just keep coming.
Yeah, it doesn't
So
it doesn't
fun.
end.
Bye.